Hello, everybody. March 17th is St. Patrick's Day and involves wearing green usually, and some people corned beef and cabbage, and some people green beer, whatever. For me, St. Patrick's Day is partly about forgiveness, because St. Patrick, everybody assumes, was Irish, but he was actually English. He was born and raised in England, and then one day some people from Ireland boated over to England, and they kidnapped Patrick and took him back to Ireland and made him a slave for many years. And Patrick eventually got back to England, but here's the thing, if a bunch of Canadians had kidnapped me and treated me as a slave, I would probably not feel warm and fuzzy towards Canadians. And yet Patrick felt called to go back to the very people who had kidnapped him and the very people who had treated him as a slave for years. He went back to those people and shared with them the good news about Jesus. So for me at least, St. Patrick's Day is at least partly about forgiveness too. And I'd like to share with you today a story about Lenten forgiveness. So one Good Friday is when we remember the crucifixion of Jesus, and I was leading a Good Friday service in church and talking, of course, about Good Friday as God, through Jesus, forgiving me even though I don't deserve it. And I looked out, and there in the congregation is sitting my big brother. Well, my big brother is the one I had hated and resented for years for molesting me when I was a kid. And there he is, sitting out there in the congregation, sitting there in the pew, looking back at me. And at that point, I felt like God was saying to me, I forgive you even though you don't deserve it. Can you forgive him even though he doesn't deserve it? And that's where the struggle in my heart was. But I felt like I needed to forgive my big brother, even though whether or not he deserved it, and even though I didn't feel like it. So after the service, I went back to him and invited him to stay over at my house. He was on the way to Massachusetts to visit his daughter, and so I invited him to stay over at my house. And I have to admit that it never got warm and fuzzy between me and my big brother before he died, but I keep working on forgiveness and to try and have a sense of compassion for him even amidst his own struggles. So if you want to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, you can do it by wearing green, or you can have corned beef and cabbage or green beer if you're inclined. But another possibility also might be is the gift of forgiveness. I always remember a friend of mine saying one time, we are not happy because we will not forgive. And I don't feel like forgiving, just like you might not feel like forgiving, but I believe God commands us to forgive, to do what I don't feel like, because it's a way of losing some weight from my own heart. So happy St. Patrick's Day, and consider maybe doing some forgiveness for somebody who doesn't deserve it. Thank you, and God bless.